Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.
Good afternoon and happy Cyber Monday. We are doing it live right here on 790 KBC, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. You got Mottek On Money live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And, of course, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Looks like the Grinch showed up early on Wall Street on the first trading day of December. Stocks slid today, while Bitcoin also took a hit today to kick off the month of December following a strong late November rebound. A lot of that gain evaporated today. The NASDAQ composite leading the decliners today, down about 90 points, with the tech names lower today. The Dow, meanwhile, also joined the downslide here, down 427 points. To 47,289, and the S&P 500 moving down 36 points at 6,813. This after the blue chip benchmark led Wall Street indexes to a fifth day of gains on Friday. Some of the biggest names took a hit today, including the magnificent one, NVIDIA, moving lower, moving right out of the gate lower. Ultimately gaining about 1%, though. Apple stock rose over 1.5%, closing at a record high. In the cryptos, we see Bitcoin falling sharply, down about 7% today, right now at around 86,000, was around 84,000 earlier. Ethereum back down to around 2,800, and we see Doge at the moment down to about 13 cents. A lot of talk, of course, about the Federal Reserve's next move and the path for interest rates. Looks like now 85% of the bets are riding on a quarter-point reduction at the Fed's next meeting coming up already next week, that December meeting. Boom, it's here already next week. We'll be getting the news on the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, which we're told is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. That'll be coming out on Friday. Wall Street also getting set for a change at the top at the Federal Reserve after President Trump locked horns with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Of course, President Trump was the one who appointed Fed Chairman Jerome Powell in his first term. The president said over the weekend he has made his choice for replacing Chairman Powell. President Trump did not give a name, though. The White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett is seen as the most likely candidate, and that seemed to give stocks a lift over the past week. In all this, we see gold and silver rising today, with silver kissing an all-time high. We're watching silver get close to $60 an ounce. Gold also popping higher today, right now at around 4,267. The volatility index also moved up today by about 5%. We're watching what's happening with not only the tech stocks, but also what's happening with the defense names, and General Motors stock hitting a record high today. The LA Auto Show has just wrapped up. We'll get the latest on that from our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix. On the geopolitical front, a lot happening. Venezuela's President Maduro running out of options to step down and leave Venezuela under the U.S. guaranteed safe passage following a short call with President Trump last month, according to Reuters, where the president refused a series of requests from the Venezuelan dictator, according to 4 sources briefed on that call. This news coming out today via the Reuters news service. The call back on November 21st. Coming after months of increasing U.S. pressure on Venezuela, including strikes against drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean, repeated threats by the president to extend military operations to land, and the designation of a group the Trump administration says includes Maduro as a foreign terrorist organization involved in drug trafficking. Over the weekend, the president said on his social media site that airlines and pilots should consider Venezuela's airspace that is closed in its entirety, raising concerns that the U.S. could be set for a strike against Venezuela. Of course, we're also watching what's happening between Russia and Ukraine as those countries continue to exchange fire. On political matters today, we'll be joined live later this hour by Hal Kempfer, retired U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, national security analyst, and host of the Strat podcast, stands for Strategic Risk Assessment Talk podcast. Hal KEMPFER will be joining us live later this hour. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, and the whole works now, including crypto, by the way. Ken Winans joins us live now, President and Chief Investment Officer at Winans Investments at winansinvestments.com. Ken Winans, a market historian, author of numerous books. His latest is Investment Atlas 3, also a Forbes magazine contributor. He does have his crypto credentials. And, of course, a familiar voice on this station with the Winans Wealth Minutes here on 790 KBC, also with Winning with Winans in the Las Vegas area. Ken Winans, thank you very much for taking the call to kick off this month of December.
Frank, my pleasure. And, it's funny, listening to everything you talked about, everybody's so focused on geopolitical things, but I don't know about you, but what I saw this weekend as far as shopping goes, stores were packed. And I think we're going to see some interesting results coming out this week, especially a lot of the retailers. And the fact that today, as you said, there's a lot of bloodletting today, although I'd like to point out that, people kept saying, oh, no, the Santa Claus rally is not going to happen this year. Well, lo and behold, November actually finished positive on the month, even though we had a lot of volatility. I think December will play the same way. But it's interesting that besides gold and silver and a handful of other companies, consumer product companies actually had a very good day. Apple, of all things, defied the trend in tech and moved up. You saw Walmart was up today. A fair number of the other retailers were going against the trend. I think we're going to find that people are generally spending money for the holidays, and especially if you count entertainment. I know I hear often now people are just giving gift certificates to go, especially in Las Vegas, to go to shows, to go to restaurants. They're much preferring that over physical gifts. But, yeah, I think there's still quite a bit of positive news out there.
All right, among the winners today, Amazon moving higher today, fractionally by 66 cents at 233 and change. Let's talk about Cyber Monday today that everybody's talking about. It's still underway, so people are doing their buying online today, and looks like that's where the growth continues to be here. And what's your outlook on Amazon, online shopping, and the brick and mortar stores here?
I think Amazon is going to be the key bellwether on where we are going through the rest of this month, because, Amazon's kind of a schizophrenic company, excuse the pun, but at times it's a tech stock, and at other times it's a retailer. This time of year, it's a retailer, and people are going to look very, very closely what's going on. But I know that just the general sense and mood was just positive. People were smiling and happy. And Frank, the other thing I think is important to come out too is that, again, we're still dealing with some of the get back to business from the government shutdown. There's a lot of databases that I use that are still playing catch up, and they're not all government databases. There's a lot of intertwining between private and public sector data. But, one of the things that I would encourage everybody to consider when they hear these aggregate statistics, and I mean that covers everything, like there was an article in Barron's talking about that 25% of the unemployed Americans over 25 have a 4-year college degree, and that is a record high. What they're not telling you is how many of those people worked in government. And I really think we need to separate those two worlds, because I do think that there's sections of the private sector that are looking at growth next year. Now they have a better understanding of playing the game in this Trump world, and they figured it out, and they're getting ready for 2026.
On there live with top-ranked money manager Ken Winans. And by the way, it is to be noted, holiday retail sales expected to surpass $1 trillion for the very first time here in the United States, with an expected growth of 3.7% to 4.2% over the 2024 holiday season. That is quite a milestone, surpassing $1 trillion. That's the expectation here. In the meantime, let's talk about cryptos here, which you also follow. It's been a stomach-turning day or so after that nice rebound after Bitcoin hit around 80,000, then rebounded to above 90, right now at around 86 or so. Suddenly the cryptos have become very, very volatile, and we're seeing that New York Times article today about the President Trump's crypto czar and so forth. blasting that New York Times article. So a lot going on here on the politics and crypto scene. Give us your assessment here of what's going on with the cryptos.
I've been asked by a fair number of people about the cryptos. Now, I myself sold my Bitcoin ETFs a month ago. I saw that it broke its base support, broke a lot of the technical stuff that I look at. But here's the thing. It was breaking down. It had a classic, kind of a sideways topping pattern. Now it's heading south. Now, here's the thing. There's an old saying on Wall Street, don't try to catch a falling knife. Let the carnage get out of it. For those people who want to go into crypto, just wait for it to stabilize. Let it find a bottom or a base. And then at that point, when things begin to calm down, go back into it. But I think what we're also finding, is that unexplained relationship between the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. And again, NASDAQ has a bad day. Bitcoin just gets slaughtered. And I think, again, we have a lot of geopolitical things that might be affecting that. But Frank, I do know that the idea that a lot of people were looking at going into Bitcoin, I've had a lot of talk with clients about this, they're just more inclined to buy gold and silver right now. It's something they understand, they know it, they can follow it, even though they don't really physically hold it. Cryptos is still a new thing. I think the clouds of crypto are going to begin to clear as we get into 2026, and we can see finally look at what the government, the investment regulations are going to look like, and especially what the coin offerings for stable coins are going to look like. There's just still a lot of stuff out there.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Hi, I'm Drew Barrymore, and I want to tell you how you can help to support the life-saving work of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. When you give, you're helping ensure families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food, so they can focus on helping their child live. This holiday, help St. Jude give children the greatest gift, a chance at a lifetime.
This holiday, help St. Jude find more cures for more children. Donate now at musicgives.org.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
A chance to show people a little bit behind the curtain.
Kling, what are we in for?
Such a fun time, so much energy, and you get to actually see people react to the storytelling.
Go! We cover a wide range of topics.
The whole reason we started was we loved playing when we were kids.
I still got that spark in me.
There you go. But I don't know how you can leave not being a bigger fan.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Go for goal! Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
But it is very volatile. It is not for everybody. I put it in the commodity camp, just like I do whether it's corn or cocoa or currencies of any other type. You need to put crypto there. But again, at some point it will find a bottom and it will stabilize.
All right. And a lot of, you mentioned geopolitics, and this Japan carry trade was also mentioned as another reason why the cryptos have taken a hit. I don't want to put the audience to sleep because that term is something obscure, but it was mentioned. Japan's central bank stirring up fresh concerns. Investors looking at the yen carry trade, which previously battered markets last year. And now some analysts are blaming it for hitting crypto. A lot of moving parts here, Ken Winans. Anything else that's caught your attention that could be an indicator of a further downdraft in the crypto space?
Well, let's also, before everybody gets overly depressed and upset about things, even right now, okay, we're in the 23rd month. Since basically we have this magnificent run in crypto. Just keep in mind that those people who bought Bitcoin back in early 2024, they are still up 84% from where they bought it. They far have surpassed the movement of the stock market. Now, what you've learned is it's very volatile, which should not be a huge surprise. Mm-hmm. I think the bigger concern is that people who are looking at other cryptos and expecting them to all act like Bitcoin, certainly Ethereum or Ether, doesn't. It's a different animal entirely, and you have to be careful. Don't just buy the block. It's the same thing when I hear people talk about buying a basket of commodities. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you should know the individual commodities and play and trade them well. But again, at some point, things will stabilize in crypto. We'll just have to see how this month plays out. But Frank, you asked about other things that are catching my eye. I mean, I'm just really blown away that we're going through a massive re-diversification in the market. And I think the other thing that's catching my eye is that money is coming back to the mothership. And what I mean by that is money is leaving. I'm just looking at the performance of a lot of these foreign stock funds. And I've never been a big fan of it to begin with, but it's very clear that U.S. equity funds, at least this fall, they are doing better than these foreign funds. And I think it's because the dollar's generally stable. People are growing comfortable understanding what's going on with the new rules to the U.S. economic gain, and money's flowing back here. I think that's why we will have a good December and probably a good January.
On the live with top-ranked money manager Ken Winans, and of course the Fed speculation swirling last week, and that seemed to give the market a boost last week about who's going to be the next Fed chair. It looks like President Trump's close ally will take the job based on the current bets, and as far as the betting markets are concerned, it looks like big money's being placed on another rate cut next month. What do you expect to happen next month, and who is going to be the next Fed chair?
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm not one to bet. I really do want to see that Friday economic data coming out, especially on prices, and I want to see what the retail sales look like. I think if you have a situation where retail sales are not too hot, which I mean, like we said, Frank, they're going to be good, and certainly things are looking in a very positive direction. But as long as the price data doesn't show a noticeable acceleration, I think it's safe to say the Fed will probably drop rates. But the other thing, too, I love how people's getting into these quarter points. The Fed might very well just drop it an eighth. And the market will probably get disappointed with that news. But again, I think that the Fed is noticeably concerned about the economy in a large percentage of the country. They're looking at it regionally, and they're saying that, yes, some of these areas really do need some help. I would also say this. Some of the real estate data is finally catching up because, as we know, with the government shutdown, we couldn't get any news at all on new home data. We're going to get that coming out here pretty soon as well. And I think that could also it might be a positive surprise. I mean, if you look at what was going on with existing home sales, things are generally beginning to stabilize in the housing area. So there's a lot of balls in the air, but I think at the end of the day, get back to your original question, I'm still in the camp of thinking that the Fed is certainly not going to raise rates. I think it's a slight possibility if they stay pat, but it's more important is the language. And if they do drop rates, I'm not expecting a big rate cut.
All right, you're coming to us from the Silver State, Nevada, and silver shining today, hitting record highs right now above $58 an ounce, blowing past its previous long-standing record high last seen back in 1979, 1980, back in those days, and blowing past those old records recently, and gold still flirting with its recent all-time highs. Let's talk more about these precious metals, good old analog gold and silver here.
And I'm also going to throw in the other big industrial metal, copper. They're all copper is certainly, is a distant third, but certainly having a good year. Frank, if everybody's speculating on what is going on with silver right now and why silver is doing so much better than even gold. I mean, if you look at silver in the last 23 months, it's up 141%. Gold's up 105. So a lot of people began to shift around. But here's the thing. Silver is also very much an industrial metal. And some people are thinking that with all the discussion of rare earths, they're also talking about silver, that there's a scarcity of silver, supply and demand issues. Maybe some of the geopolitical issues are going to start affecting it more than it is gold and platinum. So it is one of those interesting places. But here's the other thing I would tell everybody. Look, it's very easy to want to hop on the bandwagon and go out there. But before you go out and start physically buying silver, number one, it's heavy. If you're going to buy a lot of it and make it a meaningful part of your resources, you better have a pretty big safe because it does take up a lot of room. But number two, watch the markups on gold and silver. If you go to any kind of gold shops, pawn stores, gold shops, you name it, even going to Costco, just remember you are paying a markup on that. Be careful you don't pay too much.
On there live with top-ranked money manager Ken Winans. A look at platinum, suddenly at 1,673 at last check here. That's another one we've been tracking this year on the rise. And gosh, we're going to be talking more about the geopolitical scene these days, obviously with the U.S. Saber rattling in the Caribbean and the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The defense names here, Ken Winans, as we head into the new year. What are your thoughts on those here?
I've got a big position in a lot of the defense names, and especially anything with drone technologies, something like Kratos Defense Systems, which is, let's see, was it KRO? I mean, yes, you want to take a good look at some of these. I'm sorry, KTOS. It's pulled back off of its highs, but it's in drones, and I think anything in that world is where we're going. But no, the defense stocks, as I talked about earlier this year, certainly when we were looking at the volatility in the market, I thought it was going to be a lead group, and it certainly has turned out to be that way. But it's really amazing when I just go down my list with this diversification of portfolios, and I'm just looking at, there's an awful lot of industrial names that, in spite of the tariffs, in spite of all the concerns about things, they're having a great year. And I just think that as we go into 2026, we'll have to see. I mean, to me, January sets the tone for the year, but it is just amazing to look at some of these names of companies that make widgets, and they're up 30-40% on the year, and they're little-known companies that have probably been around for over 100 years. So I think people should get off, celebrity CEOs and celebrity stocks, and look at some of these good old-fashioned, Midwest manufacturing names, because I think they will continue to be a dominant group going into next year.
All right. Before we let you off the hook, we'll ask the big question here now. Any specific places where you are putting money now and or taking it off the table?
Well, I have been fully invested, and the only thing that I am selling is if any stock is breaking its 200-day moving average. We talked about what happened with Bitcoin. I don't care what it is. I'm agnostic about these things. If they are just not acting well, I take it as that there's a rebalancing in a lot of people's portfolios. But I would just say this. I think that especially in the retail area, I'm always amazed, Frank, how people are just staying away from it. And yet retailers, things like TJX or Casey's General Stores, I mean, they're still doing well. They don't give back much of their gains. I would just really think people better think about adding some retailers for the remainder of this holiday season, at least just for a short-term play. I think you'll be happy.
Terrific. Ken Winans, thank you very much. Coming off the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, please know we're very grateful to you. We want to wish you and everybody there a happy holiday season, and look forward to many more conversations here as we wrap up 2025 and head into 26. Ken, thank you very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
My pleasure, Frank. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very, very much. Ken Winans, top-ranked money manager Ken Winans, President, Chief Investment Officer at Winans Investments at WinAnsInvestments.com. Live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Good afternoon. Rough start to the month of December on Wall Street today with the Grinch showing up on this Cyber Monday. Shoppers doing their thing, but on Wall Street, not buying stocks today. It looks like they're on sale. The Dow down 427 points today, back to 47,289. The S&P 500 down 36 at 6,813. And the NASDAQ sliding 90 at 23,276. This after a pretty decent rebound last week. That included the cryptos until this weekend. We saw Bitcoin sell off overnight, and right now it has rebounded a bit back to 86,614. It was up around 92,000 over the weekend. Ethereum ETH at 2807. It had popped above 3,000 over the weekend. Solana is back down to 126, and Doge has taken another hit, back down to 13 cents. Among the winners today, General Motors at or near record highs at around 72.95. We'll talk cars coming up later this hour with our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix. Gold, meanwhile, back in the spotlight, moving higher, just below 4,300, right now at 4,267 or so. Silver, the winner of the day, hitting record highs, above 58 an ounce, 58.33. Right now down 82 cents at 58.33 per ounce. Amazon shares in the spotlight on this Cyber Monday, moving higher by 66 cents at 233 and change. The volatility index moving higher today as well, up 5%. And now the latest news, 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KBC, following geopolitical developments very closely with the focus of attention today, Venezuela and Ukraine and Russia. Venezuelan's President Maduro running out of options to step down and leave Venezuela under U.S. guaranteed safe passage following a short call with President Trump last month. According to the Reuters news service, in the call, the president refused a series of requests from the Venezuelan leader, according to 4 sources briefed on that call back on November 21st. This after months of increasing U.S. pressure on Venezuela, including strikes against drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean and the movement of some pretty heavy military hardware into the Caribbean. Over the weekend, the president announced on his social media platform that airlines and pilots should consider Venezuelan airspace closed in its entirety. Meanwhile, Russia's President Putin's claimed that Russian forces have taken control over a couple of Ukrainian cities where intense fighting has been happening for the last couple of weeks in the eastern part of Ukraine. Putin making the claims the night before his meeting with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, President Trump's special envoy in Moscow, to discuss a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. Joining us live now is retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Hal KEMPFER. He's been a Marine Corps intelligence officer, national security analyst, and host of the Strat podcast, Strategic Risk.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael Strahan, and St. Jude has been close to my heart for many years. Their groundbreaking research is changing how the world treats childhood cancer and has helped push the survival rate in the U.S. from 20% to more than 80%. Please help St. Jude give children the greatest gift, a chance at a lifetime.
This holiday, help St. Jude find more cures for more children. Donate now at musicgives.org.
Family Matters amplifies the loudest and the proudest political voices in the Black community today.
What's up, guys? I'm CJ Pearson. There's so many incredible perspectives here in the Black community that you're going to hear from each and every week. This is exactly what the mainstream media was missing.
Because faith matters, country matters, and family matters.
And actually talk to the people at the forefront of this change in the community. And by the way, it's no small number. It's growing every single day. That's why this moment matters.
Family Matters with CJ Pearson. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Assessment Talk podcast. Delighted to say Hal KEMPFER has joined us live here this afternoon. Colonel, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank.
Wonderful to have you with us here. And give us your assessment here first on Venezuela. How are things stacking up in the Caribbean?
Well, the pressure's definitely on. You got a carrier task force sitting offshore. You got a Marine Expeditionary Unit on Amphibious Ready Group. You know, we have F-35s out there. We flew B-52s right off the coast. In other words, we're putting a full pressure campaign on Maduro to leave office. And at this point, with that much forces arrayed, it's difficult to imagine that we would simply pull our forces back at some time without some sort of success. So we're seeing that. And then also we have a covert operations campaign, which I don't know how covert it is when the president says, I've authorized a covert operation. But that has to have Maduro looking over his shoulder. So what you're seeing is kind of coming to a culmination point where Maduro is going to have to make a decision if he wants to try and stay there or if he wants to try and get out of there. And we've changed all the parameters around it. So this is going to be a big week.
See it tonight, read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Kind of reminds me the holiday season years ago when the U.S. went into Panama. Remember when Noriega banged a machete on a podium and President Bush, the first President Bush, went into to Panama in those days. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, you know, it's funny. I remember that very distinctly as well. One thing you won't see, though, we don't have the forces that are going to invade the country. That's something that's a narrative put out by the Maduro regime saying, oh, they're going to come in and invade, and they're trying to mobilize their citizens' militia to oppose the invaders. Simply put, we can do a lot of airstrikes. We could do missile strikes. We could do amphibious raids or special operations type things to go in and hit select targets. But we don't have the forces to physically hold the ground. There's just simply not enough there. But we have tremendous forces in order to do strike operations. And by naming the Cartel de Soles, the Cartel of the Stars, Maduro is basically the head of it. Is the stars refer to the rank insignia of his general officers. Another way of saying the cartel and the government are pretty much the same. By designating them a terrorist group, we've now opened up all of those targets, if you will, as potential strike missions. And that's a strike that would hit the regime. That's a strike where we could actually target Maduro as a counter-drug narco-terrorist strike mission.
And maybe ultimately capture him and bring him to trial in the U.S. Like we did with Noriega.
Potentially. I don't know that we're really working that hard to capture him right now. But if we could, that'd be great. But there's a $50 million bounty on his head. So,
yeah.
There's a good chance that somebody might just turn him over in order to get the $50 million.
So if Maduro falls and the U.S. does take a military action, might Cuba be next? We're watching what's happening there as well.
Well, they're having huge problems. They've got basic infrastructure problems throughout the country. And I don't think we're going to do something like strike missions in Cuba. I think we're kind of we're past any discussion like that. But there is a very distinct chance that the Cuban government could literally fall apart as they're less and less able to provide basic human services to the Cuban population. Every time they get hit by one of these big hurricanes that goes through, they are less and less able to recover. And at some point, if the government can't provide those basic human needs, the people will find a different way to go. And they know the U.S. is there, and I have no doubt that we'll put a campaign in place as necessary to say, if you throw off this current government, we'll come in and help you out.
On the live with retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Hal Kempfer. Let's turn to Ukraine and Russia here. By the way, of course, a lot of people expected the Cuban government, communist government, to fall after the Soviet Union had collapsed. That did not happen. But now we're watching Russia and Ukraine here, and looks like some new peace efforts are underway. Give us your assessment here and the reports of the latest military action along the front there.
Well, the military actions, the narrative that Moscow puts out of the military actions is that they're making great strides. They're moving fast. They've taken a couple of towns you just mentioned, and you got to take all that with a great grain of salt. They are moving incredibly slow. They are taking horrendous losses. I think yesterday they lost over 1,000 men as casualties yesterday, and that seems about the norm. And at the rate of advance, a few months ago, they said it was going to take them 4 years just to seize Donetsk Oblast, which is that thing they want the Ukrainians to give away, that province. At the rate of advance currently, it would take them 99 years to seize Ukraine. So it's just not going to happen. All right. So they want to put out this narrative, though. They're making progress. The Ukrainian cause is lost, that Ukraine has to give up all this stuff for peace. But the reality is it's not there. Now, you're seeing a lot of activity. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner are going over to, and I think it might be Rubio's going over to Moscow to meet with Putin, and that's going to happen. I think tomorrow they're leaving to go over there. There's been meetings in Florida, Geneva, Abu Dhabi, all of this based on the 28-point plan that was put out by President Trump. That plan has been whittled down to far less points now. But based on the conversation, it sounds like they're coming together. There's still some things like, certainly any concessions on territory is a big deal. Any concessions on the size of the Ukrainian military afterward is a big deal. But it sounds like they're kind of coming together on terms. So there might be something out there kind of workable, although Putin is throwing cold water on it, saying, oh, no, we're winning. We don't need this. And a lot of it's just posturing to see if he can get the most out of whatever they agree to. But the reality is reality. He can say those things, but everyone knows the reality on the ground, and that the Russians just simply can't keep this up for a prolonged period of time.
Fantastic to connect with you here. Look forward to many more conversations as we follow all of this closely with you. We've been speaking to retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Hal Kempfer, retired U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, national security analyst, and host of the Strat podcast, Strategic Risk Assessment Talk podcast. Also, he's based right here in Southern California. Colonel, thank you very, very much. Look forward to connecting with you again very, very soon. Really appreciate the call here today.
Hey, thank you, Frank.
Thank you very, very much. And out to the freeways we go now on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. The LA Auto Show is just wrapped up over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. General Motors stock hitting record highs. That's one of the economic bellwethers out there. Looks like the auto stocks have held up pretty well even today in today's downdraft, in which we saw the Dow plunge more than 400 points. The NASDAQ moved down 90, and the S&P 500 down 36. In all this, we see GM hovering at around 72.95 after kissing a record high. Ford at 13 and change. Stellantis at 10.65. Following all this closely now, let's get to our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix, co-host of the Drive Car Show syndicated radio program, as well as the founder of Car Coach Reports. Lauren, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the auto industry, and it's pouring in, and we're going to have a big influx once we figure out what's going to happen with this auto patent situation. That could change a lot of things on a nationwide basis for the auto industry, and I'll be monitoring that as well.
Very interesting. What do you think could be overturned if all of that goes through as the president envisions?
It's a lot. 92% of the executive orders were signed by an auto patent. So some of it can be done through simple signatures from President Trump. Other things will have to go to court. So I've just been monitoring some of the executive orders. 14037, which was strengthened with a clean air, basically, I'll put it in English, clean cars and trucks for all, which was the electric vehicle mandate, which is being undone by the EPA right now and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. But this would take away a lot of power from the state of California because it was given to them through executive order. This is also interesting that the EV goals, that would completely be gone, which would put an interesting situation on the auto industry. Already, as you saw from the LA Auto Show, there were a lot of EVs available, but people aren't buying them, especially across the entire country. California, there's still some because we don't know what Gavin Newsom's going to put in place before he departs. And he could put some pretty heavy executive orders that would take some time to undo. And of course, who's the next governor? They could leave it in place or they could remove that. So that may go away under the federal mandate. Also, some Biden-era executive orders that have to do with economics. So I'm monitoring a lot. There's so much of this. I'm trying to figure out what's been undone already and what still has to be undone. But the bottom line is it's going to give you more choices so that you're not being forced to purchase an electric car. And if you want one, you should be able to buy one.
Either live with our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix. And now we understand from various reports in Sacramento that the governor's administration has released a plan to impose a mileage tax on California drivers after promoting EVs as a way to save money. Looks like they may face additional taxes too now, just like good old gas drivers are at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of states are doing that. Some do it at registration. When you register the vehicle, there's a one-time fee. Some states, like the state of Texas, charge you on an annual basis. It's $500 for a hybrid. It's $1,000 a year for an electric vehicle because you're not paying for taxes, but the cost for gas taxes, but the cost of plugging in is so much more expensive across the entire country and certainly more in California and, of course, Hawaii and Alaska. But when you look at the cost of electricity, now you're going to have to pay an additional fee. And for California, if they do a buy the mileage fee on top of the gas tax, that means those that still run on gasoline will pay the additional fees. That's absurd, and it certainly puts a burden on people that have no choice. Maybe you drive long distances and an electric vehicle doesn't work for you. They're going to put the burden on you, and those people that purchase electric cars, whether it be a Tesla or otherwise, will now have an additional bill to go on top of the increased taxes across the board.
All right, coming off the auto show, you were in town. It was great to see you here during the auto show and the days leading up to it. Lauren Fix, you were sworn to secrecy, but you were one of the judges, right, for some of the competition. Now that the dust is settled, are you able to tell us the winners now?
For World Car, we'll be announcing those at the New York Auto Show. We have the final three in each category for car, truck, and SUV of the year for North American Car and Truck of the Year. And interestingly, we have a mixture of electric cars and non-electric cars. And for the car of the year, they're down to the Honda Prelude, which is a super fun little hybrid car. It's not necessarily reasonably priced, but they did a great job bringing that Prelude name back. It's the Dodge Charger, or the Challenger, which is either electric or hybrid. I have not driven it yet. I have a vehicle coming to my house next week, so I'm looking forward to getting some time in that. And the other vehicle is a Nissan Sentra, a very reasonably priced gasoline-powered car. and certainly something to consider. One of the lowest priced cars available. In the SUV category, of course, the Hyundai Palisade, which I knew would be a finalist. Really cool, available in both gas as well as hybrid. So you have the option of getting the best of both worlds. And then beyond that, there is I'm trying to think here, the Cadillac, which is going to be a challenge for that to win because it's all electric. And although it sounds great on the surface and looks amazing, it's an amazing looking car with great technology across the entire country. It's a difficult sell. On the truck category, we've got the Ford Maverick Lobo, which is a cute little Ford pickup truck, but it's got extra performance. And I'm not a anime fan, but I guess it has something to do with anime with the name Lobo, Lobo. But in addition to that, you've got the 2 Ram trucks, the half-ton and the 3/4-ton, because now they're available in diesel as well as gasoline, or you can get a hybrid. So there's lots of great options available. Those vehicles will be announced at the Detroit Auto Show, which is right after the first of the year. It'll be announced on the 16th of January.
That's fantastic. All the names from the Maverick, Prelude, which jokingly was called a Quaalude back in the early 80s, by the way. So I haven't heard that in a long time. Lauren Figgs, let me ask you about personal security is in cars nowadays and cameras out there. New concerns about cameras secretly tracking every move you make in your car nowadays. I know you've done something on that recently.
Yeah, I just posted something on the flock cameras. This was something that was put into the infrastructure bill that was in 2021. These cameras, believe it or not, is your tax dollars across the entire country, $3.5 billion in these little cameras that are in every single intersection. That is now collecting, right now there's about 40 to 60,000 of them already in place across 42 states in more than 5,000 communities. This information goes to an Atlanta-based company. They're keeping that information. They're supposed to dispose of it, and they're selling it, which includes your insurance information, where you go, who's in the car. It even says, do you have a roof rack? Do you have a dent in your car? What's your bumper sticker? What's your license plate? Who's in the vehicle with you? All of that is being tracked and collected. Some communities have pushed back, and they've removed.
Oh, lovely. Lauren Figgs, co-host of the Drive Car Show, syndicated radio show, as well as founder of the Car Coach Reports, live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. Stay tuned now for the 790 KABC News Blitz with my buddy Randy Wang, and I'll be back with more at 4 tomorrow afternoon right here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC Los Angeles, California.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.